Doug MPA back with Doug MPA back with another live stream. It has been a while. I've been helping other people with their channels behind the scenes. But I decided to do this live stream because it's Mental Health Month, and this is really impromptu because I saw this this short here, and I really wanted to cover this subject. Let me see. Let's share this, and I saw this, so we'll listen to this, and then I'll tell you why it prompted me to do this video.
Does to traumatize you to your core. Number one, a narcissistic mother acts like a whole different person in front of others and pretends she's all peace, love, and light. It is hard to pick your jaw up off the floor watching her put on an act. Sometimes you get comments from people like, "You're really lucky to have a mom like that." This behavior traumatizes you as a kid to your core because she is nice and sweet to people, but cruel and nasty to you behind the closed doors. It makes you angry, and her friends wonder, why are you so unfriendly? Why are you so disobedient? Number two, when anything bad happens to you or anyone she knows, instead of being supportive, she makes the entire situation about her. She also creates a rift in the family and makes people pick roles as per her convenience.
So I saw that and I thought, it's Men's Mental Health Month, so let's talk about mothers, guys. Doug MPA is black. I've been black for 42 years, and I can tell you, a lot of mothers in America, but a lot of black mothers in particular, are just awful. I always say about 70%. And guys, I know a lot of your mothers were horrible too. And you spent your childhood and early adulthood just having to accept how your mother is. Now, I know that people, they talk about, oh, women go through so much trauma and this and that and whatever and blah blah blah. But but the problem is, even if you give the women the benefit of the doubt, it's not fair that they took that trauma out on their children. Reggie Gamer, what's going on, buddy? Good to see you. This is kind of an impromptu live here, but it's Men's Mental Health Month, and let's talk about mothers, man. So a little bit of story time uh, from Doug MPA. My mother was awful most of my life up until 2015, so about 8 years ago. My parents were married for 37 years, and just my mom was just awful. Like there were years where I went years without talking to my mom. Um, no hugs, no freaking I love yous, none of that, man. And like I used to wonder why my mom was the way she was, especially when you have neighbors who you can see how happy their parents are, and their mom bakes cookies and she's all loving and affectionate and nurturing, and mine wasn't. Mine was just awful most of my life. And not only that, but I have this term I call emotional maintenance, right? Parents are supposed to do the emotional maintenance for their children. They're supposed to, foster you mentally, emotionally, spiritually into adulthood. But the problem with a horrible mother like mine, and like the mothers a lot of you guys had, is you have to do that for your mom. I had to spend a lot of my time telling my mom she was a good mom when she wasn't one. Just awful. And so if you guys don't know this, I've said this in the past. My brother and I, we ran kind of an informal mentorship group in the DC area, where at one time we were mentoring between 18 to 25 young African American and African immigrant men between the ages of 22 and 35. And a lot of my mentees had horrible moms, dude. A lot of them. And the worst part about it was, my brother and I, we started repairing our relationship when I was 35, and my mom did a lot of work, man. She went to therapy. She apologized for a lot of the stuff that she did when I was younger. It was crazy, guys. But and I had to mentor these young guys who were who where I was before my mom started doing her journey. And I'm telling you guys, there's some awful mothers out there, and in society, mothers still get a pass, especially especially in the Black community. The 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 guy, bro, thank you very much. Yeah, I like those student loan videos too, and like I said before, I can do a lot more of them, but I'm trying to space them out to get more subs. But this student loan thing is ridiculous, guys. And what almost what 60%, 65% of college campuses are women now, and they own 70% of the student loan debt. It's only going to get worse. And I'm just gonna end it on this. A plumber making $60,000 a year with no debt is worth more than a a, a female surgeon making $300,000 a year, but is $250,000 in student loan debt. Guys, stay away from debt. Anyway, so thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Once again, this is going to be a stream about our mothers, guys, and what happens when you have an awful mother and the effects it can have on you. And also, in fairness, I have an article I'm going to review about sons and daughters, guys, because I've said it on multiple videos, guys. Women can't stand each other. They really can't. The only time women unite is against the patriarchy in men. But I've done videos on my channel. 50% of women would rather have a male boss than a female boss. In multiple red pill channels, they talk about how women friendships are alive because all women do is lie to each other and try to sleep with their boyfriends and their husbands, and a lot of that bleeds from mother daughter relationships. So I'm going to cover an article about what happens with sons of narcissistic mothers, and then we're going to cover an article about the damage that toxic mothers do to their daughters. In fairness, okay, and share your stories about how bad your mother was. You know, is she still horrible right now? Did you have to spend years not talking to your mother? Is your mother one of those where I did the best I could? I put food in your stomach. You know, I gave you a roof over your head. What else do you want from me? Shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right is the pathology of the modern woman and your awful mother, guys. For I'm on the other side of this. My mother, I call her Mom 2.0. She did a lot of work. Her and I have a great relationship now, but that was when I was 30. I'm 42. That was when I was 35, guys. First 35 years of my life, my mother was these are her words, not mine, was a scumbag. So anyway, let's get into the first article here. Like the video, subscribe, and if you want to hit that make sure this bad boy is monetized so you can hit that super chat button if you like what you're hearing. Oh, yep. Make sure to make sure to hit that super chat button if you like my videos. If you want to support me at all, I would appreciate that. Thanks for being here, everyone. Okay. Let me present the screen real quick. And we are going to look at sons of narcissistic mothers. Wait, where are you? And if any of this sounds familiar, please chime in, guys. Because once again, society gives women a pass, even more so now than ever. The strong single mother, she got it up out of the mud. Why don't we ever talk about the fact that these women chose an awful guy to have a kid with a kid with in the first place? A lot of these women, especially any of your single mother friends, start asking them questions, guys, and it all starts falling apart. Why did you choose that guy to sleep with in the first place? Why were you sleeping with him unprotected? Why didn't you wait until you were married? Was your mom a single mom? Because a lot of times these single mothers who treat their kids like garbage, their moms were single mothers too. Start asking questions because a lot of these women they get used to the female friendly version of a story, guys. Women just, oh my God, he was so terrible. Your baby's father's a deadbeat. Oh, really? Well, mine was too. And women just accept the female friendly version. Don't accept the female friendly version, guys. Start asking questions and watch it all fall apart. This is from March 4th, 2020. It says, "Sons of narcissistic mothers." Once again, Men's Mental Health Month, guys. Okay. "All children of narcissists suffer. Sons of narcissistic mothers suffer damage to their autonomy, self worth, and future relationships with women." That is 100% true, guys. 100% true. Narcissists lack empathy and the ability to nurture the children. They don't see them as individuals, but as extensions of themselves. Their children's feelings and needs are neglected and criticized, while their own take precedence. We see this. We see this in the Black community all the time, guys. That's why there's so many simps in the Black community, because the Black community is a matriarchy with a bunch of awful, toxic, narcissistic mothers. Not all, but most. Narcissists feel entitled and insist on getting their way. They exact compliance through control, manipulation, guilt, and shame. Once again, shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right. It's their way or the highway. And if you don't oblige, they punish you with attacks, coldness, or withholding. Insecurity drives their insatiable, unrealistic need for high regard and admiration. They take offense easily, triggering contempt and rage. Because they lack boundaries, they project, they shame, and blame others for their own emotional discomfort, which they can't tolerate. Sounds like the modern woman, doesn't it? Sounds like dating the type of women that you're gonna date in 2023, right? And I've seen all this, guys. I've seen all this with my mom. You know, some of my friends' mothers. It's crazy. This is like standard par now. And it's funny because I've seen this with married mothers and single mothers, but mostly single mothers. And when I see it in married mothers, their dad is a simp and a punk. One of those. "Oh, you have a honey-do list for me, honey, on Friday? Okay, okay, sure, honey, sure, honey." The wife is a narcissist. Narcissism varies in degree and kind with each individual's personality and values. There are narcissistic mothers who are disinterested in their children, others who are over involved. Some act aggressive while others act caring or seductive. The following are common patterns, though your experience may differ. So, so my mom was one of those non-affectionate mothers. No hugs, no "I love you," no nothing. And and my mom, she would always find a way to hurt you somehow emotionally. She it's like she had a sense on how to say and do the worst thing to make a situation just bad. Yeah, and I don't know what her deal was, man. It was crazy. So it says, neglect. Narcissistic mothers who feel burdened by motherhood. Listen to this, burdened by motherhood. Neglect their children, yet shame and criticize them, sometimes for being too needy or childlike. They're needy themselves and can't bear their children's needs. There it is, guys. This is modern mothers and especially modern single mothers, dude. They might demand their young son be a man or favor one child and demonstratively ignore or belittle another. We've all seen this, guys. We've all seen it. Either your mom did it or you had a friend whose mom did it. Enmeshment. Instead of neglect, other narcissistic mothers are enmeshed. I've never even heard this word before. They use their children for their narcissistic supply. Although a mother may appear independent, she may be emotionally needy and foster mutual dependency with her son through adoring and controlling behavior. She might depend on her son to support her emotionally, listen to her, be a companion, or attend to her physical needs and responsibilities. When he's an adult, she might rely on him to make decisions and manage her affairs and finances. Guys, and you see this a lot because most women don't have enough money to retire on, so they have to be taken care of by a family member. And a lot of times it's the son. Women make a lot of dumb financial decisions They have no money for a recession, no money for an emergency, no money for a rainy day, and definitely no money for retirement. So, guys, you better have a, a mother fund because odds are your money's not gonna, your mother's not gonna be able to afford retirement, and she's gonna move in with you. Because above all, she uses and exploits her son to supply her with attention, uh, admiration, and to fill her wants and needs. She makes him feel loved, important, and valued, reinforcing his dependency. However, it's only at her pleasure. Yikes! Hence, her over involvement with her son can camouflage her toxic parenting. There's usually a high price to pay for his attempts at autonomy through her through her manipulation with anger, shame, guilt, self-pity, and or martyrdom. He learns to put her wishes and needs first and feels obligated to do so. Once again, this is that, all these mothers do is remove their sons from the dating pool. There's a lot of good men out there who should be finding, good women, maybe getting married, maybe having kids, but their mom is in the way. Especially a, a lot of single mothers. A lot of single mothers will not give up their sons, guys. Ladies, listen, because all of us guys know good friends who can't let their mothers go. They just can't do it. Ideally, uh, idealization and criticism. Many narcissistic mothers idealize their young son. They build his confidence and sense of importance. As he matures and challenges her control, she disparages his emerging individuality and tries to correct and change him. To boost her ego, she may brag about her son to her friends, but is critical at home. I've seen that. My mom used to do that. In response, he may rebel and incur her rage or try to please her to be accepted. His fall from grace can be confusing and traumatic. It's exacerbated if another child is born. He loses his specialness, and sibling rivalry can be extreme. Yes, a lot of mothers will pick a favorite child, and that child gets everything, and all the rest of them get nothing. Particularly if it's a single mother with multiple baby daddies, and she had a really bad experience with, like, maybe one or two of the baby daddies. Well, the one that she had the least amount of trauma with gets the best treatment. Triangulation. Marital relations for a narcissist lack of intimacy. Therefore, a husband may avoid a narcissistic woman with work to compensate, and because she's emotionally needy, she would triangulate, bring in a third, be it work, a lover, an addiction, or her children. She may use her son as a confidant or companion. Children are ideal subjects because they idealize their parents and can easily be controlled. It's worse for a son if his father is absent, rages, is violent, or has a mental or drug problem than to survive. The son may seek comfort in addiction or further bond with his mother. Yep, just trauma, dude. Awful mothers breed weak men. Narcissistic mothers, all the ones with the shame, insults, guilt need to be right. They breed weak men. Seduction and Oedipal issues. We all know what the Oedipus complex is. If you don't, there's the story of Oedipus where he goes off to a foreign land, and then I think he comes back, and then he weds the queen, and it ends up being his mom or something like that. In some cases where the mother is seductive and sexualizes her relationship with her son, it can be more damaging, even without the M word. Emotional. So this is a term. Emotional I word here may occur when mothers behave inappropriately with their sons in regard to language, appearance, and manner. To a young boy, she's ugh. This over ugh. Ideally, a son becomes closer and identifies with his father as a masculine role model. The potential for this is exacerbated when the father is absent or if a divorced mother denigrates and alienates her ex-husband. Left unresolved, yeah, that's really gross up there. I'm not going to read that for YouTube. Left unresolved, some sons believe, whether accurately or not, that their mother loves them more than her husband. Instead of surrendering defeat, he's inflated and victorious over his father. Guys, you see that a lot. Um, a 50 Cent's oldest son's like that. You guys remember the whole thing with 50 Cent's son? And how he's freaking talking all sorts of trash about his dad and hanging out with his enemies and stuff like that. Look up 50 Cent's very first son. He's been corrupted by his mother into doing everything he can to damage his father. It's crazy. The dynamic damages the son's adult intimate relationships and may also impair his self-concept as a man since he sees his father, who should be a positive role model, as failing. A father's nurturing relationship with his son helps him bond, and for the son resolves inner conflict. Okay. Envy and control. Just as daughters of narcissistic mother experience their mother's envy and competition, a narcissistic mother may be jealous of her son's girlfriends and compete with his wife. That happens all the time, guys. Guys, when you get in a serious relationship, now in the red pill space, we say don't get married in 2023, but the reality is a lot of guys are still going to get married, guys. Yeah, there's a poll that said that 57% of men still want to get married and have kids, where only 28% of women want to. So, guys, at least half your friends are going to get married. Guys, when you get married, you are choosing your wife over your mom and your family over your mom. It's not your responsibility to take care of your mom when you have a wife and children, guys. It's not your responsibility. She was an adult for how many years? Now, unless she's sick or something like that, but most of these mothers aren't sick, so no one will be good enough because no one will measure up to her inflated self-image and standards. She must remain number one in his life. She may try to control and undermine his intimate relationships, criticize or disrespect his partner, or do so subtly with innuendo and manipulation. Her son would feel hopelessly guilt-ridden and caught in the middle, trying to avoid hurting and angering his mother and partner, who may also be a narcissist or otherwise mentally unstable. And that's true, guys. A lot of men who are raised by awful, toxic, narcissistic mothers look for the same traits in their girlfriends or wives, man. So they'll be stuck between two toxic, awful women, getting pulled back and forth. All the stress, all that work of handling two toxic women because the toxic behavior of his mother is normalized in his mind. Talk about a miserable existence, and there are hundreds of thousands of men in the United States going through this right now. How does that sound like for a life? Yikes. He feels guilty, is unaware of appropriate boundaries, and unable to set them. Yep. Okay, the damage to sons of narcissistic mothers. Like sons of narcissistic fathers, sons of narcissistic mothers don't feel loved for who they are, but only for what they can do for their parents' approval. Because appearances are all important, their children must look and act in ways that reflect positively on them. Love, if given at all, is conditional. That's women, period, though. The love of a woman is conditional, guys. Don't ever forget that. You have to protect, provide, meet her needs, and sometimes that's not even enough. Interacting with women is conditional, guys. It's not based on understanding, appreciating, and accepting their son's unique and true self. The son's value depends on the extent to which he aggrandizes his parents' ideals and ego. This may include pressuring him into a parent's favorite profession and to achieve success or the lifestyle his parents want. Yikes. Does any other sound familiar, guys? Think about your relationship with your mom. How toxic was your mom? Was she narcissistic? AJ's rants and raves in the house talking about how how toxic mothers damage their son, and I have an article talking about how toxic mothers damage their daughters, but it's men's mental health month, so we're going with the men first. Okay, it says uh oops. Oh, codependency. Whether or not sons have worldly success, they risk growing up insecure and codependent. Their individual identity has never been supported. Their self worth and self esteem has been undermined by verbal abuse and lack of love for their authentic self. They learn to accommodate their mother by suppressing their needs, feelings and wants. This now handicaps them in adult relationships. They have difficulty identifying and expressing their needs and feelings. They may self sacrifice and feel undeserving without people pleasing. When the father was unable to stand up to his wife to protect children from her control and jabs, um, he fails to role model setting boundaries. As a result, a son can feel used, resentful, and exploited by women. And guys, this is a product of that happy wife, happy life culture that is based in female narcissism. This is exactly what they're talking about. These women have no boundaries and just rule the house with an iron fist. And the father goes, "Well, you know how your mother is, guys. You know how listen to your mother. Your mother's a crazy person." And the father should be setting boundaries, laying down the law as a man. But he's letting this woman, this narcissistic, toxic, disgusting woman, ruin the lives of her sons. It happens all the time in the United States. That's why I would say, "Oh yeah, China's in the house. Good to see you, my friend." That's why people always talk trash about the African continent. I know a lot of Americans do, but we can learn a lot socially from countries like Nigeria, Cameroon, where they have a traditional family setup where the father is the head of the household and doesn't put up with this garbage. No, intimacy issues. When a son feels unsafe to express his feelings and needs to his mother, it feels unsafe in adult intimate relationships as well. Having been manipulated and emotionally abandoned, he fears being judged and or abandoned by his partner. Additionally, having been enmeshed with his mother, he fears being engulfed and controlled by an intimate partner. Thus, he'll avoid intimacy, prompting his partner to demand more closeness, which escalates his apprehension and defenses. So I can agree with this too. The only thing is he fears being engulfed and controlled by his partner. I don't know, man. Like I don't think he a guy with fear. I think that he lets it happen because that's been what's normal in his life. Hmm. I have to think about that more. Resentment, you know, um, from feeling controlled or exploited, the son may harbor deep dislike towards his mother, even if he remains close. Yep, that's true. This often extends to other women. Generally, he will react to women with compliance, r- resistance, or anger. Some men will be aggressive and distrust women. Other men have learned to be manipulative or be passive aggressive. They overly accommodate, lie, or passively refuse simple requests from their partners as if they were their mother's demands. Their hostile behavior may eventually make their spouse act like their mother. Resentment and intimacy fears might drive them to be dishonest or unfaithful, especially if their father was. You know, I wonder what causes more resentment. Having having an awful mother, or honestly dating as a man uh in this modern age. Because if anything will make you passive aggressive or or learn how to be manipulative or not trust women, it's honestly dating. Dating these modern women, man. All of us have got our heart ripped out by some awful woman. And that'll do this too. It says repetition. Some sons of narcissism may develop a narcissistic personality disorder. Sons of narcissistic mothers have higher rates of narcissism. This may be because she's more likely to idealize and aggrandize him rather than compete as she would with a daughter. Other sons may repeat their maternal relationship with women who are demanding, controlling, or abusive. They may partner with an older woman, a narcissist, addict, or someone with a borderline personality disorder. Guys, I've seen that a lot. I've had a lot of friends who've had issues with their mothers get with these awful women and try to save them. Your woman's a narcissist. I'm going to save her. A drug addict. I'm going to save her. A psychopath. I'm going to save her. Guys, you can't save these women. Look for the red flags. Run. To heal, a son must come to terms with his mother's uh, uh, disordered personality, his anger towards her, and his grief. Eventually, he needs to accept his parents with compassion, whether or not he likes or loves them. At the same time, he must recognize that he's worthy of love, learn to set boundaries with his mother and others, and to value and express his needs and feelings. So let me talk about this, guys. You are not a child anymore when you realize that your parents are normal, flawed people, okay? Especially your mom. You need to set a point when your parents stop paying your bills. You don't owe them anything. And your parents, your mother, your father, they have to earn and keep your respect just like everybody else. And guys, don't ever forget, women can only hurt you with the weapons that you give them, right? Especially your mom. If your mom is hurting you emotionally, mentally, you got to stop talking to her, man. You got to. For your sake and the sake of the people around you, especially if you have a family. Okay? And look for all the common signs of your mom, all the tactics your mom's going to use, all the shame, all the insults, all the guilt, and her need to be right, her need to save her image. I was a good mom. No, you weren't. No, you weren't. Don't let her gaslight you, blame stuff on you. You were a child. You were a child. She was being toxic, and you were a child who was powerless uh, in the middle of it. It makes you to give yourself credit for growing up, becoming an adult, surviving it, and trying to make something of yourself. Okay. And yes, it's not fair. It's not fair that you can see you got stuck with your mom who was awful. You see on TV all these moms. Oh yeah, or you see these athletes and entertainers. Oh yeah, my mom was so great. Yeah, well, yeah. Well, if yours wasn't, I would argue that there are more mothers that aren't great than ones that are, especially in the Black community. And if you survived your childhood, give yourself credit for that. If you survived your childhood and you're productive, successful, not in prison, guys, you know, trying to make something of yourself, give yourself credit for that. That should be your starting point. You survived your awful mother. Because a lot of us guys, particularly in in the Black community, our mothers are a lifelong burden, guys. And a lot of us Black men, we end up in crime, doing all sorts of in prison. Those guys, they didn't survive their awful mother uh, uh, in their childhood. Okay, this is Men's Mental Health Month, guys. You have to be aware of the of of all the different factors that could be contributing to damaging your mental health, including relationships with your mom. If your mom is perpetually hurting you emotionally, mentally, you gotta leave her behind, guys. If you see your mom making stupid decisions, Like, you gotta leave her behind. Once again, once you start paying your own bills, you don't owe anybody anything. And a lot of mothers, they have children as a backup plan if they don't get their lives together. You are no one's backup plan. You don't owe your mom. You don't owe your dad. You don't owe your grandma. You don't owe anybody. Go out there, make your own life, create your own kingdom. Get a good job. If you want to get married, focus on finding the type of woman you want to marry. If you have kids, be the best father to your children. But you only have 100% of time and effort to focus uh, uh, to, to give out at any given time, guys. 100%. And make sure as much of that 100% is given towards what's best for you and the woman you choose and your children as possible. Don't waste it on your mom. And the too many guys who can't leave their mothers behind. Leave them behind. I can't say this enough. Once again, we live in a society where mothers get a pass. They can treat their children like garbage. Their husbands like garbage. Their baby daddies like garbage. Everyone like garbage. And no one says anything because, oh, women give birth. Women are just so strong and independent. Women build. Where would men be without women? Where would you be without your mother? I'm telling you guys, don't buy it. You have to. You have to protect yourself. Do what's best for you. Okay, I'm gonna get off my soapbox now. All right. So, in the name of fairness, we're gonna cover the women's side because once again, a lot of women, a lot of mothers can't stand their daughters. Man, I know a lot of women who have awful relationships with their mothers. A lot of mothers coddle their sons and just give their daughters all sorts of hell, man. So before I move on to the next article, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. It shows you support me and what I'm doing over here. And let me bring up this article with the women here. Oops. Okay. And let's see if there are any similarities between, because this one's called 8 things that toxic mothers do, marginalizing, scapegoating, and more. So this is another psychology to the article. I thought it was interesting. She says, a parent not only creates the world a child inhabits, but also dictates how it is to be interpreted. That is true, especially mothers. Remember, mothers are the ones who instill the culture on their children, which is probably one of the most powerful key was one of the most powerful roles in society that modern women have completely forgot about. It says, an unloved daughter's core conflict is her recognition of how she's been wounded by her mother and her hunger for her mother's approval and love. Toxic maternal behavior can include things like guilt tripping, shaming, and gaslighting. Shame, insult, guilt, and the need to be right. The pathology of a toxic mother and the modern woman. So it starts with, not long ago, I got the following message from a reader. Well, I did it. After a year of no contact, I was feeling down. I called my mother and she sounded happy to talk. So I had instant amnesia and went to see her on Saturday. How could I have been so clueless? It didn't take more than 15 minutes for it to become the same old, same old. Has she memorized a script I left after an hour utterly diminished? Is this me being beyond dumb, or has anyone else done this? Yes, a lot of us have done this. You keep going back to your toxic parent, and they just keep doing the same thing. And it's funny because you have this need, like, one day the parent's gonna change, and, there's a small chance they will, but most of them won't. It says, "If you're curious about how I answered, I told her it happens so often that I actually have a phrase for it in my writing. It's called going back to the well. The phrase conveys the disparity between what you know intellectually, that the well is dry, and what you desperately want emotionally, which is a well of mother's love that is replenished and flowing. If you have found yourself setting boundaries and then tearing them down, going low or no contact, and then reinstating communication once again, only to be faced with the same scripts, know that you're not alone. If it's any help, I did it for close to 20 years between the ages of 20 and 40. I wonder what happened. Did her mom die or something? In fact, the research shows that this back and forth, escaping from your mother's orbit and then going back again, is more typical than not. I'm telling you guys, it happens. This happens more than the other side in America in 2023. The larger problem is that there's a script written by a mother and you're a bit player. Yes, there's a writer, director, and she owns the stage. Boom, ladies. There you go. And I'm gonna say it again, man. Mothers treat their daughters so awful, man. Ladies, the first person to call you too tall, too short, too thin, too fat, your hair is too nappy, you're too dark, you're too light, your teeth are messed up, your nose is too big, is your mom. Tell me I'm lying. The first person you've heard someone call a woman a whore or a bitch or something is your mother. Same thing with you guys. First person to say you look ugly like your daddy, you're too dark, head's too big, you know, teeth are yellow was your mom, not your dad. 'Cause understandably, since we prefer to believe in the universality of a mother's love, a myth that permeates culture. You see that? Understandably, since we prefer to believe in the universality of a mother's love, a myth, we shy away from seeing the inherent power of a parent and the possibility of abuse of that power. We like to think of mothers as benevolent and caring rulers, keepers of a peaceful kingdom. But that's not always the case. As this person writes, a parent not only creates the world a child inhabits, but also dictates how it is to be interpreted. As young children, we understand what goes on in our families. Things are said and done, how people act and react because our mothers do the interpreting for us. That's why so many men are messed up. That's why so many daughters are messed up. It's because of their mom, guys. This article's proving it. And that's why it's funny when single mothers blame the father not being there for their children being messed up. Well, no, you were there. You were there and you messed your kids up. And not surprisingly, uh, interactions and behaviors, even abusive and toxic ones, get normalized. As children, we assume that every household is pretty much like ours, and the recognition that other family functions wait, every other family functions differently may come slowly. Additionally, that recognition can absolutely coexist with our continued acceptance of how things are in our family. We justify our mothers yelling at us, we're bad or too sloppy or don't listen. We accept getting called names because we wrongly believe those words reflect who we are: difficult, lazy, obedient, stupid. We think our brothers or sisters get treated differently than we do because they're good, admirable, and lovable, and we are not. Recognition arrives at the pace of molasses, not lava. Yeah, it's true. Women, no, mothers will call their daughters names, find every way to pick at them. You know, probably treat the son better than the daughter, so the daughter has to witness the son getting better treatment. A lot of times, especially when the mother's a teenager, she will view her daughter as competition. Yikes, guys. Yikes. Adulthood and the core conflict. Most unloved daughters believe that adulthood will free them from the hurt of being unloved, as I certainly did. It comes as a wrenching surprise that moving into the larger world, vacating the childhood rooms, does little to quell either the pain or the continuing need for their mother's love and support. This is what I call the core conflict. This book says the conflict between the daughter's growing recognition of how she's been wounded by her mother and her hunger for her mother's approval and love. As long as the daughter remains conflicted, she's more likely to normalize, explain away, or flat out deny her mother's treatment than not, and to do what she can to beat down her perceptions of her mother's behaviors. This is the part I call the dance of denial. What she's saying is a lot of women, their mothers treated them like garbage, and they refuse to say that that was the case. They will defend their mother at all costs, knowing that she was awful, just knowing it. But you can't say anything bad about her. None of that. The dance can go on for years and years, by the way, or as long as the daughter remains conflicted. I have readers who stayed conflicted for 6 and 7 decades of their lives. Gosh, yikes. Okay, so 8 common varieties of toxic maternal behavior. Keep in mind that what may prevent you from recognizing these behaviors as toxic is how used to them you are. The metaphor I always use is that of the pile of boots and shoes left by the door in the winter. It doesn't take long to get so used to seeing the pile that you no longer notice it. And alas, mistreatment is really no different. To keep the peace, go along to get along, or if you're still unsure how to deal with your family's situation, you may also openly rationalize her behavior, saying she doesn't really mean it, or it's just the way she is. You may be encouraged to use just that by other family members who are invested, and you're not rocking the boat and maintaining the status quo. So there may be times where, ladies, your mother is toxic and everyone knows that if you say anything about it, it's just going to get even worse. So just shut up and take it. You know how she is. Or maybe there's varying degrees to your mom treating you like garbage. Um, and so if you don't say anything, that is the low tier of your mom treating you like garbage. MGTOW Cowboy, good to see you, my friend. Hope the drive is going good. I'm talking about men's mental health. I went over an article about the narcissistic mothers and how they treat their sons because there's a lot of awful mothers and they produce weak sons, and a lot of them are narcissists. And now, as an equality, I'm sharing an article about women and how awful and toxic mothers are to their daughters. It says, that said, th- these are all the abusive and toxic behaviors. Make no mistake about that. Shaming and blaming. This may start in childhood, magnify small mishaps into full scale dress downs in front of other people, or simply blaming the daughter for her mistake by attributing it to her flawed nature. Shaming is highly personalized and usually expressed as you always or you never. Yep, so you're always late. You never clean up your room. You're this, you're that. Done often enough, these messages are internalized by the child in the form of self-criticism, the habit of mind that attributes errors or failures to fixed character flaws. This habit becomes a fixture that lasts into adulthood until it is recognized and addressed. Many studies show that self-criticism and poor mental health, especially depression, go hand in hand, which is 100% true. Shaming, and blaming, guilt tripping. Once again, this sounds like sign language. This is mom playing the victim, and the child being reminded how derelict she is. Most usually after all the mother has done for her. Once again, I put a roof over your head. I fed you. I did the best I could, and this is how you treat me. I'm telling you, these mothers, man. Well, it has its roots in the daughter's childhood. Is used to even greater effect in the daughter's adulthood, especially if she tries to establish boundaries or regulate contact with her parent. Adele's experience, as she recounted it, is reminiscent of many others. Okay, so apparently Adele says, every time I talk back or try to make a point about her nastiness, she hangs up. Within days, I hear from someone else in the family, perhaps my aunt, my father, or a cousin, that my mother is ill and distraught and it's my fault. The message the messenger then criticizes me for my cruelty, laying down the groundwork for my mother's poor me saga. It's maddening. And yes, a part of me always feels guilty, even though I know I'm being played. There you are, ladies. The only person that can play a bigger victim than a modern woman is her mother, apparently. Adele's story is pretty typical because guilt is reinforced by cultural expectations and the biblical commandment is an easy button to push. Okay. 3, playing the comparison game. Favoritism in families isn't limited to drama queen mothers. It even happens in healthy and loving families often enough that parental differential treatment, all these terms, man, I swear, has an acronym for E, PDT, but PDT is usually not deliberate, even though it does affect the children and the families. Sometimes it has to do with the mother's own goodness of fit with one child and not another. She finds it easier to deal with a child whose personality is more like hers, for example, or more comfortable with a child who needs less support than one who needs more. The toxic mother plays favorites to maintain her control over her children, manipulating their needs to be favored and to shape the relationship among and between siblings. It's conscious and deliberate and usually rationalized. She criticizes you mercilessly so you don't have to get too full of yourself. She compares you to your siblings to motivate you, etc. Being an only child doesn't exempt you, by the way. There are always cousins, neighbors, or even celebrities to make a negative comparison. Why aren't you more like her? Why can't you make me proud the way her mother is? That sounds like are you guys subscribe to Stephen He's channel, the guy that does the emotional damage? Apparently, this is what Asian parents are like, according to all the channels that like to play on that whole trope. Covert or passive aggression. The mother may display passive or covert aggression towards her child. Most of the behaviors listed here don't involve screaming or yelling, but I have included this because children's development is directly affected by how parents relate to each other and to others in the family. A study by this guy looked at children at 3 intervals: kindergarten, second grade, and seventh grade, and compared the effects of overt and covert interparental conflict at different ages. The differences were revealing and worth keeping in mind as you consider how your parents worked out differences. While children exposed to over hostility, including verbal anger, stonewalling, nonverbal anger, and physical aggression, internalized symptoms by second grade and showed behavioral deregulation and avoidance of conflict, the children exposed to covert hostility externalized the symptoms at the same interval. The young adolescents exposed to open hostility continued to internalize by seventh grade and were anxious, withdrawn, and had trouble sleeping and were depressed. Adolescents exposed to the more covert type of okay, yeah. Gaslighting. We all know what gaslighting is. While usually associated with adult relationships, the sad truth is that parents also gaslight their children. That is the truth. Gaslighting a child is incredibly easy and horribly effective because parents are authority figures in every sense. And when they tell you that something didn't happen, you're very likely to believe them. I might have been the exception to the rule because I knew by the age of 6 or 7 that my recollection of events of things that had been said was just fine. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, it had the effect of making me think that either my mother or I was crazy, and the idea that I might be crazy was absolutely terrifying. Gaslighting is extremely damaging to a child who, in the best of all possible worlds, should be learning to trust her emotions and thought and honing her her skills. Okay. This was Rob's experience. My mother would mass promises, break them, and then tell me she never made them in the first place. I know that's gaslighting. When my brother hit me, she blamed me for egging him on, and when I protested, she said it was my fault. That's gaslighting too. Or she just denies something happened, period. She sat in the kitchen, her hands on her hips, and called me a liar or asked why I was a liar. Wow, therapy gave me eyes. This is all stuff that mothers do, guys. Think about your relationship with your mom. Did you experience, ladies, did you experience any of this? Guys, did you experience any of this? A lot of mothers, they don't want to look dumb. They don't want to look flawed ever. So they will use all these tactics against you, and in a attempt to save her image, to show that she's a good mom, when she's not, and it's not fair to you as children, guys. It's not fair. It's not right. Marginalizing or mocking you. Mothers high in control or narcissistic traits orchestrate the relationships among and between children and the family. That's what favoritism is about in part, but making one child the butt of family derision is another way of keeping everyone in line. Mocking a child's feelings or thoughts, either through words or contemptuous gestures such as eye rolling or laughter, isn't just cruel but abusive, and yes, helps her self doubt and even self hatred to flourish, even in adulthood. Always being told that your opinion is silly or stupid or that no one cares what you think is all about power and manipulation is not to be excused or tolerated. Caring about someone involves mutual respect. Once again, guys, this goes back to what uh, uh, I said before. Mothers will call you names, call other people names. Shut down your actual grievances. Always has uh, some kind of jab back. Always scapegoating. In my opinion, the single most resident observation on scapegoating was offered by Gary Gamil, who noted that the presence of a scapegoat allows a group or family and its members to believe that they are healthier than they really are. Having someone to pin the blame on, whether that's a permanent role assigned to one person or rotating, allows you to, okay. Scapegoating then allows the mother who relishes control and needs to burnish her image to have a ready and reassuring explanation at hand. It's no wonder, yes, this is what I was talking about. A lot of mothers, they don't ever want to look dumb. So they'll throw their husbands under the bus, their kids under the bus, or they want to maintain that image of being a good mom. And if anything happens to that perception, she will come down on you for it. Stonewalling, acting as though someone hasn't spoken and refusing to answer are direct ways of expressing extreme contempt. While it's humiliating and painful to experience as an adult, it's absolutely devastating for a child, especially coming from a parent. One reader shared her experience. The silent treatment, as my mother practiced, it was terrifying. It could go on for days, which is pretty much an eternity when you were 6 or 7 years old. She looked right through you like you weren't even there, and it felt as if I had been disappeared from the world. I did what I could to not anger her and to stay out of her line of sight. I said little and did less because I was afraid. My panic attacks when a teacher called on me uh, started in high school, and it was my therapist who connected my fear of speaking up or asserting myself to my mother's treatment when I got to college. Once you recognize these behaviors and their effect on you, you will have to figure out how to set boundaries with your mother. Abuse is not okay, and sadly, too many people don't know how to set boundaries with their mothers, guys. This goes for men and women. And honestly, I feel bad about all these Instagram, OnlyFans, social media influencer women who are going to have children. The article I read before, in this article, about the boys of narcissistic mothers, and then this article about the toxic traits of that mothers do to their daughters. This is going to be the majority of women. How is a woman who's made money off of Instagram, whose life is on social media, ever going to take a back seat enough to foster the physical, mental, and spiritual growth of her children? It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So this is only going to get worse. Modern women will not go back in lifestyle for children. They will not put their dreams aside, their wants and desires for a family. They're gonna fit a kid in there somehow. Most of them are gonna be single moms, and all this is gonna happen. The stonewalling, the scapegoating, the marginalization, the gaslighting, the covert passive aggression, the comparison game, the guilt tripping, the shaming and the blaming. That's going to be standard mothering in another 5 to 8 years. Once again, when all these social media women, all these all these women affected by who drank the feminist Kool-Aid, all these misandrist, toxic women, this is how they're going to treat their children. And I feel bad for the young guys coming up because these are going to be the women that you're going to have to try to date and marry, guys. What are you supposed to do with this? And guys, if this type of stuff happened to you when you were younger, go to therapy, get it figured out. It's not the end of the world. It's always going to affect you, but you can minimize how much it affects you. One of the best parts about being a man is that men are creatures of action. But you just want to make sure that you have the best information for the actions you make, and you aren't letting stuff like this, your awful mother's treatment of you when you were younger, affect the totality of your decision making. Guys, there are too many awful mothers out there. I want you to, if your group of friends. I'm telling you, one day just start talking about your moms, and you'll see that you guys have a similar experience. You may have one or two friends who had Susie Homemaker, who was a great mom, but a lot of us, our moms were awful to us, man. And it's time that we start talking about it. We have the internet now. There's the red pill community, the MGTOW community, all these different communities for you to air your grievances and air them to other men. Don't air them to women, guys. Now, ladies, I don't know about you. I don't know if you can air your grievances of you to your mother to other women, because I say to guys, to air your grievances about your mother to your mom, because women defend awful female behavior at all costs. You'll be talking to your mom, to your significant other, or some woman about your mom, and she'll say, "Well, you have to understand where she's coming from. She gave birth to you. She did the best she could. I don't know how you could hate your mother." And she knows dang well her mom treated her like garbage too. But the sisterhood is strong, guys. The sisterhood is strong. So share your grievances with your guy friends. Ladies, if you can find some female friends who will be honest about your moms before you enter motherhood, make sure to talk to a therapist or talk to other women who are sane about your experience with your mom. Just acknowledgement, like this lady said in the last article about, she said that either her mother was crazy or she was crazy. You need to have some affirmation that your observations and grievances are valid from other people. So try to seek that out. Once again, guys, like mothers are given a pass for everything. Single motherhood, treating their children like garbage. You see women freaking, you know, giving birth and freaking dropping their their fetuses in dumpsters now, and everyone's like, "Oh, postpartum, you have to No, we don't have to understand where these people are coming from, guys. You Going back to the whole mother thing. Everyone has trauma. Men have trauma. And women have trauma. But it's not fair that they take that trauma out on their children. You, as a child, you don't have to understand where your mom is coming from. She's supposed to understand where you're coming from. She's supposed to be doing what's necessary to foster you into a competitive, productive, law-abiding, tax-paying, patriotic citizen. And if she didn't do that, that's her fault, not yours. We just hit an hour and 4 minutes. I appreciate everyone for stopping by. MGTOW Cowboy, Reishi Gamer, AJ, China. Thank you for stopping by. This was a quick and impromptu live. I'm gonna start going live more. Just trying to figure out the flow. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I will catch you. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you on the next one.